what is it that you love the most about the craft right now or over the past few years?
So when I started, it was all about just creating an impact.
What's your go-to methods to kind of filter out the best candidates?
Whatever you want to title, what they need in a person. That is where the most of the time goes in.
So are there any some common mistakes that you see candidates make?
Yeah, I think the first one is to ask lesser questions.
I mean, how is product management changing with AI coming in now?
You need to build.
What's your favorite AI tool right now?
Right now, I've been using Alloy.
What is that one skill set that you feel is the most relevant? Hi Shivam, thank you so much for doing this with us. Lovely to have you on the podcast, and great to see you. Before, of course, we go in and dive into what we want to discuss today, would love if you could give a quick intro, a quick background about your journey and where you're from and all of that. That'll be great to get us started.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Malay, first of all, for inviting me to this podcast. I really love to contribute whatever I can in the community. So my name is Shivam, and I've been in the industry for about 8 years now.
Okay.
So I started as a software engineer, then progressed into a product leader as of today. And I've been building both B2C and B2B products across mobile apps and websites. It's been mostly with startups. I started my career from InnerChef, which was an online food delivery platform here in Gurgaon itself. And then I moved to Lenskart, which was all again B2C as a product manager across, I think, 4 to 5 years I spent there majority of the time. And then in the last 2.5 years, I've been at Shiprocket as an associate director of product, managing two different products. Primarily, one of them is it's something I think we'll talk about.
Awesome. Awesome. That's great. I think the best part about this, and I was looking at my notes also, the fact that you've worked across B2B, B2C, which is actually pretty difficult to get and pretty difficult to experience. So I'm sure there is a lot packed in. But we'll start right from the beginning, right? If you could help us know how did it all start, right? What was your first break into the PM space, or how did you enter it right at the beginning?
Yes, honestly, I had never, so straight out of college, I did my electronics and communication engineering
Mm-hmm.
from Delhi itself. And when I was out of college, all I just knew was computer science. I had done some basic DSA and operating system courses in college. So I'd entered the industry as a backend software engineer for this food delivery platform called InnerChef, which was a direct competitor of Fasos. They had their own kitchens, around 15 kitchens all across India, and you could order from their own app or Swiggy Zomato. And there, I remember there was one day when there was this person that just comes into our room and is just explaining all of us, like including my tech superiors, in terms of what needs to be built. So I was pretty mesmerized that who this person is and who are they to tell us and why do they know so much about the product and everything and what is happening around. And I was just so curious in knowing who were they, what was their job role and everything. And later when I asked around, I got to know the term product manager. And
Uh,
luckily, that person sort of left the company maybe 2 months after I saw them first in the meeting. And then there was a big void there to fill.
yeah.
So what I did was I just took that opportunity, and I used to work in Gurgaon, and I used to travel from Delhi. So I used to do that every day, through via the metro, and it would take me around 4 hours to and fro. So I had 4 hours to sort of learn about what product is. So what I simply did is that I just went to Udemy, searched for a course. So I remember the name of the course. It was Intro to Product Manager by Cole Mercer. And Cole Mercer is a product manager of SoundCloud, and I was an avid
Yeah.
user of SoundCloud.
Yeah.
So I just started doing that course diligently every day, downloading the videos because Metro had very poor connectivity then, mobile connectivity inside the Metro. And I used to just watch the videos. And then after 4 5 months, once I knew what product manager is through that course itself, I wrote a article on a famous shopping app in India in terms of how they can improve their UX experience according to their customer base. And what I did is that at the end of the 6 months, I took the certificate of the completion of the Udemy course. and I took the link of the Medium article that I wrote on that app, and simply sent it to my CEO. And once they saw it within an hour on the WhatsApp itself, I got a confirmation that yes, you are the product manager now. And in the next hour, I was just declared as a product manager through all the Slack channels and WhatsApp groups. So that's how sort of I entered. And yeah, it's been a journey since then.
Oh, nice. That's amazing. I mean, it's so interesting to see how different situations, different backgrounds, and different contexts, but the core essentially remains the same, which is and comes out so often in whenever I do this, is that at the core of it is the hustle, right? I mean, no one really forced you to download the course. No one really forced you to get spend all your time in the metro watching the video. No one forced you to do that tear down on whatever you did, but awesome. That was a very good one. Great. So I mean, yeah, you've basically built growth, you've built user journeys, and then of course now you're looking at businesses, and you're building for B2B and all of those things. Tell me something. Before, of course, we dive into this aspect of your experience at these two companies, what has been one of your key motivators? I mean, of course, ever since you broke into PM, I understand that that was, of course, a one big break. But after that, what has kept you going for so long? And of course, the kind of companies would have helped there. But then, what is it that you love the most about the craft right now or over the past few years?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So when I started, it was all about just creating an impact. And I didn't know what the definition of impact was then. But for me, it was just getting something out. That is, whether if I'm launching something, if it's improving something, is it helping the business? Is it helping some real person out in the real world? Or is it just doing something? Is I'm not creating something that's just lying out there. And I
Yeah.
know exactly what is happening, like how much I need to do in whatever I'm building, in order to know what kind of the impact it can have. So it really started from that. And I think over the years, that definition of impact has changed drastically. So as you mature in your product career itself, so initially it was small wins. Now it's bigger and bigger wins. You aim for bigger wins. That is, if you are holding a product charter, you would want it to succeed basis the expectation of what the business has, basis where you are strategically taking the product in the market. So I think it's all about impact. It has been about impact. And it's very hard to work as a product manager if you can't get your things out there and really see what you're moving, whether it's business or people.
Mm.
So that has been my only and the sole motivator.
Nice. Do you still crave? I mean, of course, I think the scale is much larger, but that curiosity is, I guess, still the same as it was early. But just that you still crave that impact or that delta that you can drive at any business, right?
Correct, correct. So now it's more about being patient,
Mm-hmm.
because once you're patient, the goals are bigger. You have to be patient. You have to do a lot of things in the background, and you might also fail at times. But if you get a big win, it's a big win. It's like winning a World Cup versus winning like a local league that you're playing.
Makes a lot of sense. Nice. Awesome. Right now, if I'm not wrong, what you're doing is you're the associate director at Shiprocket and you're leading quick commerce, which I'm assuming is, I mean, is exploding everywhere. So I think that might be one of the biggest priorities there as well. But help me understand, what is it that separates the experience at maybe a Lenskart, which is completely B2C versus, or D2C rather, versus Shiprocket now, which is more business to business and a completely different game or different kind of user, a different kind of expectation. How different is it, and what do you think some of key differentiators about these two?
Yeah, I think generally, so Shiprocket is my first B2B stint, and
Mm-hmm.
it's been an incredible journey for me so far. So what the key difference I can sort of see from a bird's eye view is that in B2C, it's kind of built for experience. So you provide value to your customers. You want the product to be shinier, as per se. It's a platform or it's a product where you can get traffic, considering you have Meta and Google Pay and all these traffic paid sources to get traffic to any B2C product. So you can simply assume it's a product which has high traffic and you cannot talk to everyone. So how do you make decisions? How do you drive that experience? Experience seems like a key component there. And the different skill sets or the teams that you require for B2C, it primarily includes analytics because you're getting so much traffic, you're aiming for traffic. Then designers play an incredible role. So if you have very good designers, it becomes just easier, or you can just get a high leverage in terms of giving a very good consumer experience. And then you require catalog teams to enrich the data. If it's fashion apparel, you require that sort of catalog team and all these things. And also, it's kind of it can be like a debatable thing to say, but it's more less convincing. You need to convince internal stakeholders lesser as compared to the external stakeholders when it comes to B2C. However, when you talk about B2B, it is always when it started as a concept, it was very utility focused. That is, you have to
Ah,
create value to the businesses. So if you remember in the old times, there were Tally and all these tools which were supposed to look extremely boring, but then the utility was extremely high. Like CS cannot
okay.
work if they don't have a Tally installed in their computers. So getting traffic in such products is super hard because
Mhm.
these tools are mostly high OV, you got to pay more, and there's a certain learning curve, there's a certain specific use case for you to access that utility. And a lot of time, the sales funnel is involved, whether it's you're getting through your own product or getting through a sales team. And then it's very a thing that again that I noticed here in B2B is that it's kind of required more to convince the internal stakeholders because there's so many people involved and in touch with the customers as compared to B2C, where only a specific people are in touch with the customers. And B2B markets are usually very highly competitive. So you can have the same customer being targeted by so many other players as compared to B2C, where eventually it gets into a monopoly structure. What I've seen in India till now. And however, companies are now sort of moving towards making B2B a more B2C kind of experience. That is, they're focusing on the experience like we are doing at Shiprocket. So earlier, yes, the sales, or you can say the pitch used to be to you can say the CMOs or the CXOs of the company when it came to B2B. But now it's coming sort of bottom up. So if you see tools like
Mm.
Notion, Slack, they are kind of influenced through companies through the lower hierarchy of the employees, not the top ones.
Correct.
So it's very important now for B2B companies to make these products very self-serve, very user-friendly, very customer backwards, and not just enterprise or utility backwards. So that is also sort of changing when it comes to B2B products itself.
Nice, interesting. I mean, that actually last example reminds me of an anecdote. So, of course, when I moved from ed tech, which was completely consumer focused, towards Vyapar, which is more B2B, in the first, I mean, I remember the first 6 or 10 months, I actually found it a lot more easier, to be very honest, because it felt like, oh, it's very structured. Your customers give you a lot of feedback. Every time you act upon a feedback, you see impact and over a period of time. But over a period of time, what happens is even the best of B2B products, they require a complete, user rehaul because the user's experience becomes important, important, important. And now it's at a
Um,
stage where no matter what, if you're serving a business or you're serving a consumer, people expect a certain quality of product. They expect a certain UX, they expect a certain UI, certain speed, and all of that. So yeah, I mean, from that perspective, it became harder and harder. But yeah, 4 5 years back, it felt like, oh, this is actually pretty easy compared to what we used to do. Because in my earliest stint, it was actually very instinctive, right? It was just, you take a call because there are so many users, you do research, you do your best, but then there were so many failures. In B2B, that's happens lesser, but I think that's changing now. Anyway, I think that's a very interesting point to look at. But what I want to talk about a bit more now is, because you're now in a leadership role, and want to pick your brain a little more on the hiring processes, and how do you approach hiring both in general and in Shiprocket, right? What's your approach? What's your go-to questions? What's your go-to methods to kind of filter out the best candidates that your team can have or you can have to work with?
Yeah, so I sort of follow a very simple concept, and hiring is something I've learned over the years, both as a candidate and then as a interviewer. I used to play football professionally back in college, and I
Nice.
remember, and I still watch football a lot. So it's a simple question that how do football managers buy players?
Hmm.
So what do they do eventually is that they spend 90% of the time in the research on what exactly do they need to fit in. in a person? What are the skills, soft skills, hard skills, whatever you want to title, what they need in a person? That is where the most of the time goes in. And
Correct.
second, the last amount of part, that is the 10% of the time or the effort that goes about in the selection process. That once you know who to hire, how do you go about selecting it? So it's a similar thing that I follow is that first is to decide whenever there's a role out there that I'm hiring for, first is that I decide what the hard and soft skills that I want in the person. So, and the concept to sort of calculate it is kind of simple, is that so product is all about connecting business goals to customer needs. So the business requires some needs from the product team needs to fulfill that gap. And then once as a product leader, when I'm aware, okay, this is how the direction or the strategy of the product looks like, these are all the different components, and these are all the skill sets that are, this is how I would want to distribute work amongst each person, or this is a skill set that is missing in a person, or a person needs to do this or that. So as a leader, it's very important for me to realize or to know specifically what's the missing piece to reach the business
Hmm.
outcome. So considering the product culture, stakeholders, outcomes, I decide the hard and soft skills, and it takes me quite some time. And once I
Correct.
have that, I sort of get it through my seniors up the hierarchy. And then once I have the list, that is when I sort of have a talk with the HR, and we go about doing selecting for the right fit. And
Hmm.
when I'm selecting there are different ways to sort of select a candidate. However, the key thing that I always have in the back of the mind or open in my laptop are the hard and soft skills that I would want in the person that are required by me. So if I'm hiring for a B2C role, it would be very different skill sets as compared to B2B. For B2C, I would look at something that's someone who's very good at data, someone who knows how to work with design, who can cancel out their explorations, make them work faster. Whereas if it's something tech oriented B2B, I would want to hire for someone who's very tech savvy, knows what APIs are, basic stack structure, knows how to talk to developers, and is very good in sort of holding the room and aligning stakeholders. So yeah, those skill sets change, and yeah, with the hiring selection, so usually it's 2 to 3 rounds that I personally kind of take. The first is the HR one, where there's a basic filtration happening of the soft and hard skills that I mentioned. And
Hmm.
then there's a round where I directly talk as a hiring manager to the person applying in terms of, again, a basic filtration, because you cannot go deep in every interview.
Of
And
course.
then as the interviews keep going forward, you sort of keep filtering and filtering till the very end where you have covered all the hard and soft skills, and you realize that, okay, this is what they're meeting, this is not what they're not meeting. And then you take a call that, okay, can you train these? Are these trainable? Are these not trainable? Depends on the time, situation, what the product is going for, that how the team is operating. That is the time for training. Can this be trainable, or this is something that we require already? Do we require the industry knowledge for it, or is it something that someone can learn? So all these sorts of questions, they come into play in the interview rounds.
Got it. Interesting. Interesting. I think lots to unpack there. Are you more instinctive in this process? Of course, you mentioned the skills, right? And you have a great method to kind of document that and then evaluate people. But in this evaluation, are you more instinctive of, for example, a lot of times in the first 15 minutes when I'm taking an interview, I realize that this person is there or they're not. And then, the rest of it is more about, eliminating reasons to not go forward and just ensuring that everything is in place. Are you more methodical about evaluating each of those skills, and what's your process of doing that, right? How are the rounds scheduled? Do you like use the typical product sense, estimation, RCA, strategy, all of those rounds to evaluate these skills, or is it more conversational, more behavioral? What's the structure there?
I think for junior candidates, so I've usually interviewed junior candidates itself. That
Mhm.
is, so for them, it's usually I interview for both. That is the behavioral part, and then the product case studies. So on the first part, the focus is lesser because if it's junior PM, they're highly unlikely to have a lot of experience in the industry.
Absolutely. Hmm.
And so that part is sort of lesser in terms of the percentage of questions that or the skills that I'm testing. If I'm able to draw very strong insights from their experience in terms of the hard and soft skills that I'm looking for, then it's well and good. If I'm not, then I'm going to focus more on the product case studies for the candidate. And within the product case studies, so on the first part, on the behavioral side, it's mostly around their experience, what they have built, why they have built, what were they thinking, what was the environment like. So all these things are sort of cues in terms of the culture and the product and if they are a fit for my team itself. And then secondly, on the product case studies, because if it's a junior PM, I would love to have some creativity from them, coming out of them when they are there in the team. So product sense is something that's the number one thing to go. That is to ask them that how would they go about building a certain product, or what would they do to improve certain product, any product of their choice, just to pick their brain, how they think, what is the structure, and what are the goals that they set, what are the numbers that they look at, why do they look at. So all these things, some things that, it's very hard to fake in an interview
Correct.
like this. And then eventually I would move to certain hard skill questions. So for example, if I'm hiring for, you can say, an analyst role, I would go deeper into the Excel side, into the data analytics side. How do they extract the data? How do they present the data to a stakeholder, and how do they analyze it? So all these
Mm-hmm.
things I kind of test, go double down. So these are usually covered in the case studies itself. And then if it's sort of working very closely to the designer, then the case study would involve like a take-home assignment also, where they would
Absolutely.
have to take a project at home, pick their own brains in terms of how the UX should be, why it should be, how the funnel should look like, all these things. So yeah, it's a mixed bag, but mostly two parts. One is the behavioral side, which is lesser in terms of the percentage time allocated, and then the second one, which are the product case studies, which takes the larger part of the interview process.
Nice. Interesting. Do you have like a go-to question that you ask every time and people trip on it?
Yeah, I think tripping, I don't think I'll let the tripping one know here, because for the future
Sure.
candidates it'll become easier.
Sure.
But I think what I usually ask is that if they any app that they use daily, or a secondary or tertiary app that they use every day, and how what are the views on it? What is the app doing to the people outside in the real world? What is the impact that app is doing? What are the pros and cons? And then I go about, okay, what is the one specific feature within that app that you like? Okay, how do you think they're tracking it? And how do you think you would want to improve on it? Or why would you want to improve on it? So it's a holistic view. It's not just, it's very conversational. I have a strong structure in my head, but I really want to see that how do they handle the ambiguous part also while being creative and focusing on the problem and the questions itself.
Got it. Got it. Are there some common mistakes that you see every time you interview? Because I'm sure you interview a lot. So are there some common mistakes that you see candidates make?
Yeah, I think the first one is to ask lesser questions.
Yeah.
So the problem statement that I genuinely give is very abstract,
Yeah.
and I really want them to be curious about and question me that, okay, what is this? Why we are doing this? And where we are headed? All these questions that are typical in a PM's, like if someone tells them or gives them any requirement, they should be very good in answering the right questions. So that is one common mistake that I see in a lot of PMs, that they just jump to the solution, or maybe midway into the solutions, or maybe ask questions too late.
Got it.
Secondly, that would be they would typically follow a circles method, which is like very known in the industry now. It's a simple method. I think when I was interviewing like 7 years back, it existed even then. And
Yeah.
it is so structured, like it just kills your creativity. Of course, it's good, it's awesome, but it won't fit every single time, everywhere.
Correct.
Maybe there can be better solutions if you just flow around. So that is something, a mistake that I see, that they have already created a structure even before I told them the question, and they're just following that blindly. And they're just trying to fit all whatever they're thinking into that structure. And in the end, it just doesn't make sense. And so that is the second problem that I see, that case questions, they have already prepared a one specific structure, and they're
Mm.
just strictly following it, even though it's not working. And then the third one would be the communication part. So a lot of junior PMs, because PM role itself consists of a lot of communication with other stakeholders. And
Mm-hmm.
what I've learned from my own seniors in throughout the industry is that you have to be very crisp as a PM. You have to be very on point, no filler words. You have to be very specific in your ask, whatever you're doing, whatever you are explaining to another person. So that has always been my way. So because as a PM, you don't have the authority, but you still have to get things done. So when I see junior PMs explaining me something and they're just all over the place, there's no structure in explaining. For example, even if you are telling, okay, I thought this, then I did this, and then I'm thinking this. So this structure should be very plain, simple. Maybe do a point, maybe have some pointers in your own head and simply call out first, second, third, all these things. And what I see a lot of PMs doing is they just speak and then think. They don't think and then speak. So
Mm.
it's a very common mistake that I see, and eventually everyone is going to learn that once they are in the PM industry doing product. But that is something that I really test because I think that is super hard to train, and it takes a lot of time to train someone with that.
Nice. Interesting. Very, very interesting and very actionable as well. Just wanted to contrast this a little bit based on what you experienced at Lenskart. Was the process similar? Of course, there I'm assuming you might have been on the other side of the seat, or you might have interviewed people as well there. But was the process very similar there? Were there any specific differentiations there?
Yeah, I think for Lenskart, I think just adding a few points on how I got into Lenskart, that remember the famous app that I was telling you about that I
Yeah,
wrote
yeah.
an article on. Yeah, so that was Lenskart itself. And it was at
Got
the
it.
time of
Nice.
the LinkedIn era when LinkedIn had just started. I didn't even have a
Um,
profile pic back then on LinkedIn. And I posted it there, and the CBO of LinkedIn sorry, not LinkedIn, Lenskart contacted me for a hiring opportunity. And that's how I sort of interviewed and got it. And
Nice.
for me, initially, there was a direct round of course, there was one filtration from the HR, then a direct round with the hiring manager, knowing what do I can offer in the team. I think he was also testing the same soft and hard skills. And then I had a case assignment around, I think, a retention of the product itself. So it was very UX heavy, very data heavy. It had a lot of data points that I had to use, a lot of funnel analysis that I had to present, a lot of UX concepts that I had to express in that. So all those things were there. And then in the end, there was like the CPO round, or you can say SVP round, where there was an very detailed discussion about my experience and what I'm looking at my future from my eyes then. And in the end, there was an HR negotiation round, or you can say the fitment round. So they were like around good 4 rounds for me to get into Lenskart. And I think after that, also Lenskart has followed a similar approach. That is, to have one layer of hiring manager and then eventually
Mm.
certain case studies, and then another senior to get interviewed with. That's what I remember last.
Got it. Nice. Nice. That's interesting. I mean, similar, but yeah, of course, everyone has that little differences from there. Perfect. I've just got a few more things to pick your brain on. And the first is, of course, AI. We can't not talk about AI. But I wanted to pick your brain in terms of, how do you see the landscape right now? In terms of course, things are changing. I know that AIPM is getting all the hype, but in India, those roles are still, up and coming. But how do you see that changing right now in the industry from your lens? I mean, how is product management changing with AI coming in now?
Yeah, I think a lot of PMs, when they enter the industry, I mean, not necessarily they would have built things in their past career, that is, built it
Yeah.
themselves without convincing someone to do it. So for me, since I'm
Uh,
coming from a coding background, I'm very comfortable with building products, whether it's digital, whether it's physical. So what I'm seeing
mhm,
now is that AI is sort of making sure that if you're a PM, you need
mhm,
to build. You should have some experience building because right now it's insane that you are a PM, you have some idea, you want to execute not for the country, not for the company itself, or maybe for your own personal use, or maybe for your own, some idea, or you want to help someone around you, creating an impact in the real life. So you can just start Claude, you can just get your code bases from GPT itself. You can just start coding, build something usable that can
mhm,
solve a real problem. So what AI is changing is that as a product person, you should have experience in building something because eventually, maybe. Uh, it's the PMs that are building everything, or maybe it's the engineers who are doing the PMing, or maybe it just remains same as it is. But if you're not you if you haven't built something as a PM, then you're gonna be behind the people who have built something. Because
Correct.
building right now is super easy. And if you build something, you gain a lot of knowledge. There's no denying that. So
Mm.
I think that aspect is changing a lot. So if you're a PM who haven't built anything, any level that you're in, whether you're CPO to all the way to a very junior PM, you have to build something. And why wouldn't you? It's so interesting to build right now.
Correct.
Everyone has
Absolutely.
so many ideas all over the place. Like I remember I have a friend who thought that, you know what, in Splitwise, when you upload your bills, like when you're adding the bills for the flat, you always have to upload the image and then see the image, then add the cost. Then why can't AI read the image and just fill up the cost? Very basic
Mm.
use case. So he just made his own mobile site platform and just shared amongst his flatmates that all right, we're gonna use it now. So they use for a month, I think, and then they move back to Splitwise. But
Mhm.
doesn't matter. The idea was to just build something, get it out
Yeah.
there,
Correct.
and have that experience itself, that what building is like, because eventually product people are enabling to build something for both the customer needs and the business goals. So that is that one main thing. And then secondly, there are certain skill sets that are also changing for PMs, that primarily you can say things are getting automated a lot. I think
Yeah.
the execution or the quality bar of execution is getting very high, and that is both the depth and breadth of your specs can be super tight now. And comms are crisper now. If you're talking to, you're pitching your idea to an executive or something. So your communication is easier now. You can write very good emails, very convincing communication you're doing. You can do in the review meetings or, with your senior stakeholders. And then few things which I feel are gonna still stay manual, or they are manual right now. That is the data analysis part. There are a lot of new tools coming out there, Julius AI, and
Correct.
more and more tools. But I have personally not become comfortable or fully reliant on these data tools. I've been using them, but partly. There
Mm.
still needs to be, I think, innovation needs to happen there, and it will eventually. So, but right now it seems to be manual. And the initial specking of the product, that is what you need to build, because there's a lot of storyline in terms of what you're building for, the voice of customer, and the business goals. So that is awesome if you can feed into the AI and get it out. But however, that human element still remains there. You need to be the one to decide what the strategy, or the direction of the product needs to be, what you need to build, why do you need to build, and who all do you need in the company to build. So all these things are still kind of manual. And yeah, and I think last but not least, the skill set required are also changing. So as I said, if you're building something, you'll already have these skill sets, but you haven't. But even if you have, you can just have a checklist that, okay, do I have one project or anything that I built? Second, do I know the basic tools, what Olama is, and what
Mhm.
Grok is, what are tokens? And then the third are the concept. That is, what is a RAG model, what is MCB, MCP, all these things. Like, well, honestly, if you build something, you'll just be familiar with all this.
Absolutely.
But these are all the concepts that have become sort of like basic. And these are not very hard to know concepts. It's just going to Google, just being curious enough to just know everything. Or you can just make your custom GPT, chat GPT, and just keep asking and throwing them questions. And also telling the GPT, how do you want to see the output as? Like maybe your sixth class maths teacher who you really love listening to, like that, or anything. So learning is super easy. So yeah, there are no excuses now for getting these skill sets.
Interesting. That's actually pretty nice. Pretty awesome. Do you have a favorite AI tool? I always ask this, but what's your favorite AI tool right now?
Yeah, so right now I've been using Alloy AI,
Hmm.
which is like a design tool. So if
Nice.
you have any design requirements in your head, and if you want to have, maybe high fidelity itself, but low fidelity thoughts, so you can just get it out. So you just write the prompt there and it gives you a design output, whether it's mobile, desktop, anything. And then you can also feed your design lingo and everything in it. So super helpful.
Pretty
And
interesting.
I don't think so a lot more people know about it,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's pretty good. I
Yeah.
think I think one should really try.
Nice. Alloy. Great. Awesome. Right. I mean, Just last couple of questions to, pick your brain and try to understand, try to help people who are, looking at this and trying to, someday reach where you are right now. For an aspiring product manager now, if you were to talk about one skill set that they should focus the most on, I mean, that you see is going to be the most relevant in the next, decade or so, or 5 years or so, what is that one skill set that you feel is the most relevant, or everyone who is looking to move or is in PM now has to optimize for?
Yeah, I think we can sort of divide into soft skill and hard skill kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. I think the soft skill needs to be extremely basic. That is, they need to be a full product nerd. Like if you see any person in the product industry, they're just gung go about whatever that is happening around. They're just fully into the products that are being launched, whether it's if Anthropics made an announcement or there's a new product out there, whether it's B2B, B2C, doesn't matter. They're just curious and they'll
Mm-hmm.
just get to know the info and maybe they'll be updated. So that curiosity part is super important that comes from being a product nerd itself. So I think that is something that needs to be there. And especially if you're starting out, that is one thing that a lot of leaders see because you're not bringing a lot of skill sets to the table initially. And that is okay because you're just starting out. However, the curiosity is something that's like the bare minimum and the bare basic thing that is required. The second thing that is in terms of hard skill, that would be around, you can say, data analysis, because if you are, doesn't matter which industry you're working at, you're always going to be needing data. In terms of needing data, data can sort of come from any ways, whether you are talking to the customer, whether you are extracting from a Excel, whether you are doing it from, some database or adding some Google Analytics tool to know the online behavior, anything. And that
Mm-hmm.
data itself, just extracting that data, representing that data to someone, whether it's a leader, whether it's yourself. And third is getting insights from the data itself. Whether it's a very small insight, as small as, okay, people are clicking here more as compared to there, or maybe, this is what people really want from the platform itself. So the data itself as a component is something that is being, you can call it data driven, data savvy, whatever you want to call it. But that data component of being on top of data and knowing how to utilize it, it's super important. So I think that is the hard skill that will not go forever, because even if you're using AI to getting the data out, you still need to compile everything, whatever AI is giving you, whether it's insight, whether it's the presentation or anything. So
I
yeah,
see.
so two things. One is being a product nerd, being curious, and second is being on top of data, being data driven, being data savvy.
Nice. That's actually very, very actionable and very nice. Finally, any final piece of advice that you would like to give someone trying to build a long and successful career in product management, such as yourself?
I think, yeah, I think we covered it in the first part itself,
Yeah, of
and
course.
that is to be curious. But I think for a lot of junior PMs, I would like to give this advice. So just basically, I had this curiosity that what I want to know about product, but I was still very, very okay knowing that, okay, this is eventually something that I will not like. So
Hmm.
it is super important for you to evaluate in the first go itself, because a lot of people want to enter product right now. It's awesome, honestly. I don't see why not. But if you're someone who doesn't know if they what product is, and you just feel like entering, just take a pause, just learn what product management is, what does the day look like, what do you do exactly, how does the career look like, talk to a leader who has made it, and just talk to them, know what their journey has been, what did they like, what did they not like. So just being aware of what you're getting into is something that is super important. So if you are a junior PM starting out, do all your research, because in the end it's a role, it's a job, and there are like thousands of roles and jobs out there. And that is one thing that junior PMs should really focus on. And if someone who is in the mid journey, maybe 3 4 years, and just want to proceed, I would just say that don't just be very strict about, okay, this is how I want my journey to be. Maybe I want to go in this direction or this or that. but honestly, it's not really in your hands. It's only some part of it is. So wherever
Mm.
your journey takes you, whatever that product is, B2B, B2C, small scale, high scale, doesn't matter. The whole point is to just give your best, just get to know the industry, just get over that challenge of knowing a new product, challenge of knowing a new customer, challenge of knowing a new stakeholder, and just building everything for them. Because once you overcome that, the kind of confidence you get, that even if someone tomorrow throws you in any kind of product, whether it's high scale, small scale, internally you just know that, okay, I have my certain concepts. I have like 100 concepts in my head. I'm going to try all of them. If some of
Ah,
them fit, awesome. If they don't, awesome. I know they're not fitting now, but then eventually you're going to figure it out. So yeah, the idea is to just not stop and just to keep moving forward, just giving your best, giving your maximum empathy for the customers, whether you are solving for, whether it's internal, external, doesn't matter. Just keep giving your best and just keep moving forward with the same curiosity that how you started your career from.
nice, nice. That's amazing. Thank you so much, Shivam, for doing this. I think this is one of the most insightful conversations we've had. Lot of things to unpack, and I'm sure we're going to get like a lot of follow-ups on. Okay, this was great, or I applied this, and all of that. So thank you so much for doing this. It was a real pleasure and honor to have this discussion with you.
And thanks, Malay. Happy to help. Anyone who's watching, hi.
All right.